Hi everybody, it's coffee morning with Jane and Bobby, and I am in the equivalent of Buckingham Palace in San Diego today. So whilst we're not in one another's company, we are in the same country this week, which I think is amazing because actually, Bobby, you haven't moved, you're still in the red background.
I'm still in the red room.
Whereas I am in the suite. I'll give you a quick... The suite... Oh, look at that. The suite that Jane and Rachel are sharing for the Idea Convention where I'm going to see you. So the theme for today is, are we fitness frauds? Bit of a touchy subject. Sorry?
Me and you, Jane? No. Of course
Me
not.
and you aren't fitness frauds. Everybody knows that, don't they? We're not, are we? Are we? The quote that I love from you, and I've posted your blog on Facebook today, and I'll also back this up in the when I post the actual interaction between us for Coffee Morning Out, is if we feel like we are a fraud, it must be because we feel we are violating some rule that we are pretending to live by. Now, I crossed both lines, Bobby. I adhere to rules, but I'm also a rule breaker. I was brought up in fitness by the laws of evidence-based. Whatever we say, as long as it's backed up by evidence, is fine in a way. And I know we could pull that apart totally. But as a businesswoman, I also live by the rules of typical business, which is resilience, honesty, sustainability. What I said yesterday, although it's changeable today, it has to have its roots grounded firmly in some sort of evidence and some sort of sense. So, for example, for me, I created a yoga program, which was like blasphemy. For 5 years, I felt like a fitness fraud. But for that first 5 years, I had to keep overcoming all the things that I felt fraudulent about. I knew my roots firmly in fitness, firmly in the evidence of fitness. But 12 years on now, I am yoga. Like a lot of people out there, I've done my time and I've learned and I've learned and I've learned. So I'm really up on the fraudulent content of what you're talking about. What are your thoughts there? Tell me.
Well, I think that feeling like a fraud is a component of honesty.
Okay.
To be really candid with you, to be honest with you, it's a component of honesty.
You fraud.
Some of the smartest people I've met in the industry, at one point or another, have felt like a fraud, Jane. And I'm talking about people with Ivy League educations, people who are really switched on, people who are not very intent on being noticed, but they're very committed to doing the work. And the reason for that is, if you're honest, there's always a point where you come to the end of your knowledge, where you come to the current level of competency, and you realize that there's a huge chasm to cross between where you are and where you could be. The people who I'm more concerned with are the people who never feel like a fraud. I mean, we were talking about the article that I wrote on do you feel like a fitness fraud or are you a fitness fraud? It comes from a very good mate of mine where I was reading his blog. Now, this is a guy who has tens of thousands of followers every single day. He's probably one of the popular, accomplished speakers in the Southern Hemisphere. He has had one of the most successful personal training studios anywhere in the fitness industry. He's an individual by the name of Craig Hopper. Craig is a rock star when it comes to communicating profound ideas in a way that's humorous, in a way that's powerful, compelling, but really easy to understand and therefore easier to execute for most people. Yet he's a guy who travels around the world, meets really intelligent people, shares the stage with some of the who's who of the speaking world, of the scientific community. At some point you think, wow, am I a fraud? Am I as good as other people think I am? And the answer is yes and no. Because none of us are as bad or as good as we think we are. We always have a propensity to either overestimate ourselves or underestimate ourselves. And if you ever get to that point, I had this conversation at the Faster conference in Southampton about 6 weeks ago with a fitness professional who was saying the same thing. She said, I get up every morning. I love what I do, and I love my clients, but sometimes they think I'm smarter than I actually am. Well, congratulations, because realization of your own ignorance is the first step to expanding your level of intellect. If you don't get there, you're lost. And I think when we feel fraudulent, a couple of things we need to examine is, one, where's the conflict? It could come from incongruence between what we believe, what we say, and what we actually practice, because cognitive dissonance is that internal duress that we feel emotionally whenever we have two opposing viewpoints in mind. And if we're living in one way, but we believe something contrary to that, that can cause a lot of intrinsic duress, that can cause a lot of emotional disturbance. So intellectual or emotional dichotomies is one. Number two, lack of clarity. Let's take a look at the word fraud. When we talk about something or someone being fraudulent, it deals with misrepresentation, doesn't it, Jane?
Yeah.
It deals with violating through deceit terms of an agreement. So if you feel fraudulent, who's your agreement with? Is it with yourself?
Yeah.
Is it with somebody else?
With the rest
Who
of the
exactly
industry.
are you deceiving?
Well, can I just bring something in there, Bobby?
Go on.
Because let me just keep bringing this down to grassroots, the level of, the people that are going to be listening to this. I got an email yesterday from someone, and it's funny you mentioned Faster, because it also mentioned Faster. And it's just an instructor, not just an instructor, a brilliant instructor, who'd had one of the Faster team come to her classes. And at the end, the Faster guy said to her, listen, I really think you should stop giving postural cues. Shoulders back, abs in, all the things that everyone says in class, because they just don't matter. Just let people function properly, function in an ugly way, but function in your classes. And she wrote to me, was just what am I doing? And it's exactly what you said. The fact that she actually wrote to me and said, what do you think? I flipped it back at her. You know that what you're saying doesn't make any sense. What you're going through now is you almost suffer a loss. Hand in hand with the feeling, am I a fraud? You're suffering a loss because deep down you know that you, like your t-shirt says, you've learned more just by saying these things over and over again. You've now learned and talked yourself out of them because they don't work. You're looking for something more, you're looking for something deeper. And you've almost turned yourself into the fraud in searching for something else to say. Do you know what I mean? For a want of a deeper knowledge, your base level of knowledge becomes fraudulent slightly.
Well, Jay, I think a problem we all run into is we all have rules. Now, you said you're a rule breaker, but you can't be conformist nor contrarian unless you're really clear as to what the rules are and why you're breaking them.
Yeah.
So being contrarian for the sake of being contrarian is the same, but the opposite side of the coin as blind conformity. I think a lot of us implicitly follow a set of rules that we're not aware of. In other words, our lives are living out a script that wasn't even written by us.
Yeah.
And whether it's our need for acceptance, whether it's our lack of certainty, whether it's fear of judgment, ridicule, failure, whatever it is, a lot of times we accept other people's rules that they may or may not know that they're imposing on us anyway. So there's all this implicit imposition and acceptance of these rules that we're not even sure what they are, but because we get hints from our environment, people either approve of us when we behave in a certain way or disapprove of us when we behave in a different way. We kind of always feel like we should be doing something rather than what we are doing, or we should be more, or we should be training this way, or we should be interacting with our clients, in a way that's different than somebody else's or exactly the same, and we wind up shooting all over ourselves throughout our entire span of our career. But before we get to that point, we have to ask ourselves, what are my rules? Because when we understand what our rules are, for the time being, because rules change, and they change with reason. But when we understand what our rules are and why we're following them today, when we receive information that's contrary to what we have done, it's not a threat, because our security doesn't come from what it is that we know, because what we know is always needed in comparison to what we're capable of learning or can know. But our identity comes from the rules that we've chosen through self-determination to live by, to practice our craft by. So one of the things I really like about the Faster organization is that company cultivates a culture where they question rules. They never take anything as given, but if somebody says, well, do it this way, whether they agree or disagree, they'll question the rule to get to the root cause, the essence of where that rule came from. And very often, we find that a lot of things that we're told to do may have valid reasons, but more often than not, if it does, we're not really sure what they are. We're doing it because this is the way we've always done things around here. Great movie. I was talking to my friend David Barton about this movie the other day. Midnight in Paris. I love this movie, and one of the reasons why I love it...
Is that Woody Allen?
That's Woody Allen.
You love Woody Allen.
Do you know, I'm a New Yorker. I guess I'm a tortured, neurotic New Yorker. I'm destined to like Woody Allen, for better or for worse. But I don't like all of his movies, but this movie I thought was brilliant, because Owen Wilson plays the part of this struggling writer who's living by, again, a set of implicit rules that tells him he should be writing for this sector of Hollywood, and should be leading his life a certain way. His girlfriend, who's completely the wrong person for him. Oh, God, the character in the movie, she's the wrong person for anyone, really. But basically, she is telling him explicitly what she expects, and he's living a lie. Because what he deeply believes to be true, what he intuitively knows about himself as an artist, and the life he's leading, creates that dichotomy. So he's living in this state of cognitive dissonance. And then, well, he winds up going back in time, bear with me, and meeting Gertrude Stein. Well, it's really Kathleen Bates, but Gertrude Stein. And she's reading his work. And she says, this is beautiful, but you're so defeatist. You have much too beautiful a voice to be a defeatist. And this completely does his head in, because Gertrude Stein is stating this from the 1920s. He's got the benefit, or he thinks he has the benefit, of history on his side. He's seen, or not seen firsthand, but he's had a historical account of World War II and the horrors that came after that. He's witnessed genocide in Dufar. He's seen the world at its absolute worst. And he says, how can you say that? The reality of the world is, it's not that great a place, and sometimes things don't have any meaning. And she doesn't argue with him. This is what I love, because I don't really get into these airy-fairy platitudes about, blind optimism or positive thinking. Sometimes you need positive thinking, sometimes you need critical thinking. Most of us would benefit from just doing a bit more thinking.
Bit more thinking, full stop.
So listen to what she says, and this is brilliant. She concedes to the fact that the world can sometimes be a horrible place, and sometimes the most horrible things seem void of meaning. But you see, he's got a problem. He's chosen to be an artist. He has chosen to step into the space where he interprets and creates for the benefit of other people. He no longer has that option in her mind. And she said, it's not the job of the artist to give in to despair. It is the job of the artist to find an antidote for the meaninglessness of our existence. I think that's one of the most powerful quotes in all of cinema, because she concedes, yes, you are right, but the fact that you've chosen the path you are on means you've relinquished your responsibility to just sit back and say, right, it's beyond me, I give in to despair. Because in essence, what she's saying is, a defeated world does not need one more defeatist. A world that's suffering does not need one more suffering person. A world that is filled with negativity and anger and horror doesn't need one more negative person. What the world needs is the antidote, or the antithesis. And the worse it gets, the better you need to be, because the more the world needs you to be that. And that is really powerful. And that creates the context
Hang on.
for a set of rules that he
Hang
adapts
on.
for his life.
Oh, hang on. So what I'm going to do now, for the benefit of the person listening, who just that, like me, part of it went straight above my head. What you're talking about, in a way, is the simple difference between objective and subjective. And it comes down to the criticism of his art. So you might say that the person who creates the art is simply creating a canvas for me to make my feelings and my development a journey. So if I look at a painting by Dali, it doesn't matter what Dali's intention was, it's what it makes me feel. And when I've looked at that picture, I go out, and if it changes the way that I live and create my own art, then the art works, really. I don't have to look at the picture and really try and get into what Salvador Dali was thinking when he put pen to paper. So come on, let's bring this back to what we do now. This is about us in the fitness industry. So on one hand, we've got people who just parrot fashion, give out other people's rules, regulations, what they think, what they do, what they say, is all governed by someone else's script. Yet really, what we read, what we see, what we learn should simply fuel our level of knowledge on that day and make it greater. So we create our own script and our own ideas and perpetuate our own journey.
You know what? Very profound. And
I have my moments.
Back to reality, Jane, because we can pontificate and we can converse for the next 20, 30 minutes.
We can't, because Michael's still picking me up.
The essence of feeling like a fraud. But I think all of us at some point feel like this. And here's a couple of questions in my mind, a process that we can implement whenever this feeling strikes. Because sometimes introspection and nation of our motives and our feelings without judgment, right or wrong, again, not shooting all over ourselves, is the essence of growth.
Growth, I like that.
The first question is, what is the rule right now, or what is the belief that's creating this internal feeling, fraudulent feeling in me? Number two, is this belief or rule my own? In other words, where did I get this from? Was this from an instructor? Was it from my family? Is it from my peers? Is it an assumption? And if it's an assumption, how do I even know it's true?
Yeah.
Number three, how does this serve me? Because everything that hurts you also has the capacity to serve you.
Yeah.
So while it might make you feel completely conflicted, it might make you feel like complete crap, it might also, in your mind, protect you from criticism, judgment, condemnation, ridicule, all the things that all of us, if we're really honest with ourselves, do fear to some degree. Varying degrees, but we all feel it because we're all human, aren't we? Number four is, does this harm me more than it serves me? And if so, what rules can I set up consciously that allow me to live my career on my own terms and be consistent between the rules that I set out to follow and my ensuing actions daily? And that's really powerful for us, because then we could set up our rules, and they don't have to be extraordinary rules. They can be simple rules. Again, I at a conference met a trainer who without getting into details, she suffers from severe physical limitations, and her mindset was, if I can enrich somebody every day, and if I can lift someone up, and I can encourage people every day, just do no harm, I'm living my life the way I choose to live it.
That's brilliant.
Now, how amazing are those rules? Because she doesn't say, right, if I'm earning 100 grand a year,
Yeah. 6
I'm
figures.
living my life successfully.
Uh-huh.
Or, you know what, if I've got this clientele, she's setting up rules, and she can expand her rules over time.
Yeah.
But she gets to feel like a complete success every day because she set up rules that are specific enough to direct her behaviors, to direct her intention, her level of awareness. But they're vague enough that she can allow herself in some way, shape, or form. Hey, Jane.
Hey, got cut off there.
Well, I think your video shut off. There you go.
I'm back.
Back.
Well, thank you for that, my friend. I think what we're going to have to do, I think what you guys are going to have to do is just keep, which I do all the time with Mr. Cappucciouk, is these conversations, you can't just, they're not spoon-fed. This will stick with me now, and I might need to play it back and listen again and again and again. And that's the whole point of Coffee with Us, is to get you guys thinking about where you're going, what you're doing. I seem to have lost Bobby.
No, I'm here.
You're here verbally, my friend, but visually you've gone.
Well, I do have a face for audio, love.
Oh, no, you do not. You're so handsome. Anyway, thanks for listening. And again, we meet on Friday, so we'll be doing this live, face-to-face. Yeah, give us your feedback. We'd love to hear it. And you guys take care. Hey, Bobby.
Hey, Jane. Can't wait to see you.
Hey, me too.